So, Craig, what do you think are the biggest hurdles for cloud computing going forward?
There are definitely a lot of companies who are moving aggressively to the cloud, but it would be inaccurate to say that it's across the board. What really is happening is that some of the earlier adopters are experimenting with the cloud and finding what works for them. Others are a little more hesitant or have more complicated internal environments and they're really waiting. So I think the top thing is probably the unique complexity associated with EDA environments. No two companies actually do this the same way. And in many cases, what they have today is a reflection of years and years of incremental tweaking. As simple as it may sound, is actually very difficult sometimes to know what dependencies a given piece of software has. There's so many things that are done through automation and scripting. So one of the things that happens is that these customers have incrementally improved their CAD environments little by little in such a way that they may not even know exactly what all those dependencies are. Finding a file, knowing what an application requires can be a difficult task. So that's something that is a challenge in terms of trying to decide when to go to the cloud. Another thing is this hybrid model that we talked about. Hybrid is by far the most intriguing of the cloud models. It seems to give you the best of both worlds, but it also brings with it that data management task. We've done a lot of things to make the data management easier, but it still is data management, and that needs to probably be further optimized in order for companies to get more comfortable with the cloud. Another thing that we see is that the urgency that a customer typically has to meet a tape-out schedule or to complete a project on a deadline is so extreme that there's almost never a good time to transition to the cloud, a different environment. It's an incremental risk that they may not feel comfortable taking until a project is concluded. And it may be that as the project concludes, there's something else that's pressing. So there's almost never a great time to redo something. And companies who are moving earlier are just taking a strategic choice to do that now. Others maybe are waiting and being a little bit more reactive. Another interesting item is the total cost of ownership, or TCO. One of the fundamental things in IT is trying to understand what the complete cost of your environment might be. And that goes well beyond what the cost of the hardware is or the storage. That's relatively easy to determine because you get an invoice from the customer when you buy that. What is a little more subtle is what is the real estate cost of having a data center? What is the power requirement that you're paying? And how does that power bill change based on how much compute you use? So those kinds of things, including the labor that's associated with the IT people supporting that, have to be in the calculation. And it's not as easy to do as one might think. And as a result, that tends to be something that a lot of analysis goes into. And finally, something that is top of mind for most of the customers is expense control. There's tremendous flexibility that's inherent in a cloud, but it also means that if you don't properly set constraints, policies, and limits, you may find yourself as a CFO writing a great big check for the cloud that wasn't part of the original forecast. So the fear of losing that kind of control can be a hurdle as well. So while we're on a great trajectory already with a lot of companies using the cloud, there's still even many more that I think will eventually get there as we as an industry and as a company help them address these major challenges that I've described.